There seems to be some irony here that the day before Father's Day, our gospel closes with this declaration that Jesus has come to set a man against his father, daughter against mother, and goes on to state that one's foes will be members of one's own household. And while the days at home seem to be getting longer and longer, and there are days when it feels like our foes are under our roof, I don't think that's what Jesus was talking about. We know that to literalize those words diminishes everything we recognize about the love period ethic of the one we follow. So what exactly does it mean? Because it sure seems like the divisive language we hear on the daily news. Quite simply, it means following Jesus is really hard. Last week, we heard about Jesus sending his disciples out into the world to heal and preach and teach, and he reminded them to be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. It means that we may find ourselves in situations that require us to speak the truth about seeing Christ in all persons, and everyone in the room may boo and tell you you are wrong. That very thing happened about 1.5 years ago when Valerie Hart and I attended a city council meeting that was primarily focused on the location of a mandated homeless shelter in Tustin. The meeting room was full of angry and afraid parents, and it became obvious pretty quickly that there was no acceptable location in Tustin for a shelter. But Valerie Hart stood up and spoke the truth of Jesus. Homeless lives matter, and sheltering them matters. And she was booed, and it was frightening. But here's what came out of that tense council meeting. First, we began a dialogue with parents about children who are homeless. Then a city commission made up of parents and people like Valerie began talking about solutions. The result was a state-of-the-art shelter in Tustin. And some of the most vocal anti-shelter parents came together and to this day contribute to Sunday supper. More importantly was the recognition that there are people in our city who care about people who live on the street. They are not invisible. Was everyone's mind changed that night? No. But we talked face to face, and Valerie's truth-telling mattered that night. Jesus was preparing the disciples for exactly that kind of moment, when the love period ethic outweighs fear, name-calling, and the way we are perceived by our community. These days call for Valerie's kind of courage. We have endured a lot these last few months. Fear of the virus, fear for our economy, fear that things will never be normal again, missing our families. But we're not the same people we were 3 months ago. We've learned what it's like to pray together daily. We have learned how to get to know each other in new ways. We've learned how to teach and learn on Zoom. Our conversations have been rich and more substantive than I can remember. Our time apart has strengthened us for the hard work ahead, the radical work of healing. Among the maskers and the anti-maskers, the radical work of healing between people of color and people who are white, and the long work of reconciliation that no matter the outcome, will confront us after this election cycle. Today, healing is a radical notion. Abby Norman is a Methodist pastor, and she puts it in perspective. I think my church and my kids and myself, I think we want to be radicals. I think we want to change, but we don't want to do the work of actually doing the thing. And I think most of my theological life, I believed that that was okay. I believed that what really mattered was my heart, that I professed with my mouth what Jesus really cared about. I think she's saying that there's more to it than that, more to living in the name of God. Weekday morning prayer and evening prayer have given us an opportunity to spend some time with Jesus, the holy human one, who taught us what it's like to be different. Jesus taught us about the ones we disagree with, the masked and the unmasked ones, the ones who look like us and the ones who don't. They are all holy and beautiful. We've been spending some time with the same Jesus who believed in the ability to heal. Not just his own ability to heal, but yours and mine. If we've learned anything these last few months, it is that now is the time to enter into the radical work of healing and listening. If the life of Jesus is the lens through which we see justice in the world, and if being a follower of Jesus is our identity, then today the actions of healing and listening are our call. It means listening to our Black siblings and voicing that love period ethic on their behalf, even if we are publicly booed. Now is the time to live who we are. The world needs us. We have permission to live and voice that ethic of love in the name of God. We are ready for this. We have been preparing for this our entire lives. Thanks be to God. Amen.